Well, hello, welcome to the show. My name is Joe Hyde. I'm the publisher of San Angelo Live. I'm joined here with City Council candidate SMD 2. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Dudra Butler, long-term, well, she was born and raised here in San Angelo, and she has always been at the forefront of public service. This is your, probably, you've run for office again or before, but this is a serious foray into getting into the City Council. So, Dudra, why don't you just tell me, I hate to ask this generic question, but what motivated you to want to jump into the political fray?
Well, Joe, I had run for, as you stated, city council out of college. I'd run for school board.
And of course, you did this when you're like 23 or something, right?
Yes, I would have been probably 24
Right.
in 81. And then I ran for school board in 98. Both lost close runoffs. And I had always said when I retired, I would run for either school board or city council again. So here I am. I retired May 31.
And you're retiring from the San Angelo ISD.
Yes.
And what did you do at the San Angelo ISD?
My job was a school service worker, which is social. So I was an advocate or liaison between school and the families.
So can I ask some questions about that? Because
Sure.
a lot of people don't understand a lot of the challenges that happen in a public school system. And San Angelo certainly is a good macroeconomic model for the rest of the state of Texas and our 2,700 school districts. What are the biggest challenges facing children that you worked with?
Most of my students the schools that I worked in had a majority of at-risk population. So you would have families that may not have insurance. Kid might need glasses, there may be times that the electricity was cut off or water, and they would need assistance navigating those things, and that would be my role.
So you learned about what NGOs, non-governmental organizations, government programs that help people who need a lift up. You learned about how all these work together.
Sure, and prior to being employed by the school district, I had served on so many boards that I knew the resources that were out there. So it was such a good fit. And what I didn't know, you're absolutely right, I learned.
Right. What when you said these families, are there a lot of them in the school district, or is it like half the population, quarter of the population, 10% that needs help occasionally like this?
I would say probably in your schools that are primarily at risk. So I worked at Altaloma, Fannin, Goliad. Over that period, I worked at Austin, worked at Lakeview. Probably half of the population, the membership in the schools, were families that might have a need from time to time.
So a lot of people that live on the southwest side probably don't see that side of the school district, and they don't understand that we have to have these organizations out there helping. Otherwise, we're going to have some pretty bad outcomes.
Well, I think some of what you say is correct, but I think even if you go into Lamar, who has combined with Rio Vista, Crockett, so you're going to have it in every school where there's some families that have more of a need than others.
Okay. So you did that for 20 plus years.
Yes, 26
Social
years.
work at the school district, which is important because if a kid can't eat, probably he's not going to learn.
Right, absolutely.
Right? And so we're just wasting money on the teacher in the classroom if we don't have those kids
Absolutely.
ready to go to school. All right, so you retired from the school district, and I've known you a long time. So you were driving around town going, what am I going to do next, right?
Well, when I retired, it's like I picked up 3 more organizations, looping us together. I joined Bible study on Wednesday. So I continued to be active. I just had always said when I retired and had more time, I was going to do that. And I feel like at 68 that I still have something to give, and I want to be involved, and there is the reason why I'm running.
Okay, so you'll be replacing the current person in your seat is Tom Thompson.
Yes.
Who has been there for 2 terms. He's termed out, and he's running for mayor. What issues, and of course, SMD2, if you don't understand where that is, roughly, I'm going to just try to describe it. It goes from the Houston Heart all the way up to 2105 on the western side of the city.
Yes.
Is that about right?
That's about right.
Okay. So a little bit of Lakeview, a little bit of north, the north neighborhoods right there north of the Houston Heart. What issues do you see your constituents? I'm sure you talk to people who are going to vote for you. So what are they telling you we need to work on?
You know, I've heard from people that live over by me. I'm off of Edmond, and you have Kirby Park there. They'd like maybe a blinking light there. There's lots of traffic, and we've not had any pedestrian accidents that I know of. But that could potentially be a good spot because we don't want to have any accidents. Other than that, for me, I know some of the things that the city is dealing with, and I am going to be learning, weighing my potential constituents, what they would like along with mine, and trying to come up with a good solution and a good way to vote.
All right, citywide issues, and this might be my little pet question I always ask is economic development.
Sure.
You know, we had Mayor Brenda Gunter come in, and she talked about planes, trains, and automobiles. We have to grow the city. We can't just think of the city as this, or growth in the city as the industrial park, because until she showed up, that's where they were concentrating. We need to attract factories and things like that to the industrial park. She says no. Anywhere there's a curb, we can put a business.
Sure.
You know, at the airport, she oversaw the creation of the rail port up on the north side of town, things like that. However, San Angelo still is not growing fast enough to satisfy our needs. And case in point is the school bond, where they're asking primarily residential taxpayers, and also this is something that people don't really get. A landlord is not capped by the homestead exemption.
Exactly.
Right? So the apartment complex or the rental house that he's renting out for, let's say, $1,500 a month now, all of a sudden he's stuck with a 27-cent increase to his property tax. That's a huge amount of money, and he's probably going to pass a lot of that on to the renter. Mm-hmm. And our renters are people just starting out families, or just graduating from school, high school or college, starting their careers, probably the ones that least can afford it. So what can we do in San Angelo for economic development to grow this city so that we can have basically the growth consume some of these tax increases to pay for our infrastructure? Because I know that you're from the school district, so I know you're kind of like me. I don't think we can miss not voting for the school bond just because we need, I don't know if you've seen Glenn Elementary School, things falling apart.
Sure.
We need the infrastructure, and we don't have the infrastructure redone, then what business wants to locate here?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
So give me some ideas on economic development. I mean, I'm sure you've been talking to people about growth of the city.
Well, certainly one issue that has come up repeatedly, we need affordable housing. That is a way that we can grow that tax base. I fall in it. Yes, I'm over 65, so I'm homesteaded at my house, but I also have rental property. Therefore, I will pay on that other end. Mm-hmm. So we need to have more affordable housing for people. We need to try to bring in some businesses and whatnot. And as you said, the school districts, people look at the schools. Is there a good community there for my kids? So that is something that, as a city, we've got to really look at.
One of the things that I know from reporting the news is we have COSA DC, the City of
Sure.
San Angelo Development Corporation, which manages the half-cent sales tax under the direction of the City Council. It hasn't had a leader since July 2022. Yes. Would that be a priority for you to get a leader of Costa DC back in place?
Absolutely. I would not have been in agreement of, I realize interim where an assistant city manager is filling that role. But yes, I believe the funds are there for that, and we need to fill that role.
And I feel like by not having that person there, we're a little bit listless because even though the chamber does a good job,
Yes.
but if there's no head kind of coordinating everything, it's like everyone's not work. It's like having a football team without a coach.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's what I feel. All right. So the chamber, these are issues for economic development. Also, the chamber has been stuck receiving from the city $262,500 a year since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's all they've received year after year after year. There's been no increases, and we went all the way through the COVID inflation and everything. They're still at $262,500. So, do you think we ought to give the chamber a little bit more, but a half-cent sales tax to pay for their economic development marketing efforts?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That needs to, if we're talking 4 or 5 years ago, absolutely that figure needs to be raised.
Right. Okay, good. Tax policy. Are you a tax? You want to increase taxes or lower taxes? Because here's the deal. Every year, we elect our city council or mayor. Half of it, right? Every 4 years, I guess. Well, basically every 2 years, we elect a half of the city council, and then invariably within 3 weeks, everyone's complaining on social media about we need to get rid of them all. They're just doing nothing but spending money and raising taxes. How would you respond to that? Do you think that that's all they do is spend money and raise taxes?
Well, I would advocate for transparency. I don't think people have a problem with spending money if we know where every dollar is going. We want to know. I know some of the issues with Costa DC. We want to know that the numbers match up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm, of course, behind the school board bond, and I will even say the Coliseum bond. You've got a Coliseum that is 65 years old, and I feel like it's going to pay for itself. But I want to know that I can get a ticket to the rodeo and not have them all bought up in 3 days if you're asking me to help pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think people want to know where their money is going.
Right.
And myself, if I know that, I'm okay with it, with increases.
When you talk about where the money goes, one of the frequent complaints you hear, and this is not directed at SMD2 or whatever, it's just against the city or even the school district, you hear about the salaries of the top, the city manager, assistant city managers, and things like that. At the same time, I'm smart enough to look at Wichita Falls and look at Abilene and look at Lubbock and see how much they're paying their city manager and assistant city managers. And we're probably a little bit below, our comparable cities as far as paying the top help. Would you advocate, how do you view city manager's salary, for example, or assistant city, the top 10 of the city?
Well, what I would do is, like you just said, look at comparable cities, and I might feel okay with it, but I also think that we've got to be reasonable and not make those increases so big that, and I'm always concerned about the other people as well, not just the top salaries.
And that's true. If you take a tenured person that works in finance at the city, they probably had, where your top management has gotten $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 increases in pay, and that sounds a lot, but we pay city managers a lot in Texas. Your $50,000, $51,000 finance clerk has probably gone from $51,000 to $53,000. So it's not a whole lot of increase for them. And that leads to another question. The city has a hard time with retention. If you look at, we don't have a head of the water department. We don't have, we don't have a city attorney. We don't have an HR director. All these key positions are dropping out. Why do you think that is? Are we not paying enough, or what's happened?
I can't answer that, Joe. There's got to be a reason. It could be money, or it could be something else that we're just not aware of. I would hope not, and I would hope we could get some people that would stay. And I think all of those people had been here for some time, and certainly, I'm sorry that we've lost them, but I get it. They're probably gone to other places where they make more.
Yeah. Well, I think in the city attorney's Teresa James, yeah, I think she considered it a move up to go to the city of
Sure,
Fort Worth.
sure.
So she was just working her career ladder. I'm not familiar with the rest of the situations, but it seems like we have a lot of open billets at the city right now.
Right.
And we probably need to do something to fill them. All right, I'm going to ask you about something that everyone will tune into, because I'm going to ask you this next question.
Okay.
Our police department, and this is true for police departments across the nation and certainly across the state of Texas, it's really hard to get someone recruited to become a new police recruit. Back 20 years ago, when the city opened up the application pool for police officers, you would have a full room of people wanting to be police officers taking their civil service test. Today, you might have, half a dozen, and of that half a dozen, maybe 3 of them would qualify, to go on to be offered, to go to training. The police department, if you talk to the guys with the Texas, or the SACOP, I can't remember whatever the pack is for the cops, they'll say, well, we just don't pay them enough. But I've been in Lubbock, I've been in Abilene, and Lubbock is in the same situation where they don't feel like they're not paying top tier. Okay, Abilene's actually got ahead of us, and they're paying more than Lubbock in some ways. But I mean, you're starting off a police officer right now at $55,000 or so. I think Abilene's starting them off at $63,000. That's a lot of money. I think Lubbock's tied with Abilene, maybe slightly below. That's a lot of money. How do you feel about that? I mean, are you going to prioritize public safety and support the police raises when they come to you and say, hey, we need another $2.5 million this year? And how do you feel about it? I mean, these are big budget busters,
I am certainly for our policemen, our first responders. I think that we will have to do what needs to be done. So to answer your question, I would look at everything and probably, yes, we would have to support that.
Yeah, so we're going to have to support. And the way I look at it is the city's primary purpose is 2 things: fire and police.
Sure.
Sure. At the same time, you're looking at the taxpayer. Traditionally, cities, municipalities in Texas, half of your budget generally is public safety, and that's been covered by your property taxes. Now we're starting to use some of our sales tax revenue to finance our public safety. And the problem with that, or the challenge with that, is sales. I mean, if we have a recession, sales tax revenue would obviously be very fickle in supporting that. So how do you view that, cutting into your sales tax revenue, or would you support raising the property tax rates, even going, I mean, Lubbock 4 years ago had a referendum on the ballot to increase the tax rate above the 3.5% voter approval cap, and said, this is for public safety. We're going to increase taxes 5%, and the reason we're going to do this is to give raises to our first responders. Would you support something like that, or would you look favorably on something like that?
I would, possibly at a different time. My mind right now goes to, we're asking the taxpayers, the public, to support these 2 bonds. But I do think, I want to be a person that makes the hard choices if it's necessary. So yes, if we had to go over that 3.5, I think we have to do what's necessary,
necessary.
and I would be in favor.
But at the
in
same
that
time,
instance.
you feel the angst of the taxpayer.
Exactly, because I'm one.
Right.
And, protected some on my home, which is homesteaded, but like I said, I've got other properties, and yes, I fall in that bracket.
Individual city council members are important for your district, so people can call you, constituent
Absolutely.
services and things like that. How accessible are you going to make yourself?
Well, I will tell you, I've already been meeting with people, and being retired, I've got time. I can promise everyone that when I get those calls, I will respond, and I will make the time to hear you. I will be a leader that listens.
All right. So this is Dudra Butler. She's running for SMD2 City Council. She won't say it, but I'll say it. Her opponents are Joe Self and John Barrio. I interviewed Barrio a couple weeks ago, and I think Joe Self's already been on here. But I wanted you to meet Miss Butler and learn kind of what she's about. I've always told you this. I said that I think the best description of Dudra is Dudra cares. I think you care, and I think you'll figure out the right way, the right path, just because you have that giving heart.
Thank you for that, Joe. I definitely have a servant's heart, and that's who I am.
All right, back to you guys.